Welcome back. Now, Kenya's foreign policy has evolved since independence in order to accommodate changing world affairs and the shifting interests of the country. In his first 100 days in office, President William Ruto has seemingly set out to establish new bilateral ties as he cements his administration. And as NTV's Melita Oletenges now reports, questions abound on whether this is a shift in Kenya's foreign policy. Is Kenya now facing west?
Hello, yes. How are you? I'm Moses.
Within the first 100 days since taking over the reins of power, President William Ruto has been to 10 different countries within Africa and beyond. The head of state has been to the United States of America twice, once to the United Kingdom and South Korea. His foreign trips point to the president seemingly charting a different path from his predecessor, former President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Is looking at diplomacy of economic prosperity, is looking at traditional ally versus energizing new ally, bringing new ally like South Korea, where he has visited, continue to work with China, but more lean toward the West, which is very important, for him. Debt resolution. We have a huge debt with China.
Kenya's foreign policy framework rests on 5 key pillars: peace diplomacy, economic diplomacy, diaspora diplomacy, environment diplomacy, and cultural diplomacy.
I am very pleased that this president has created the Office of Diaspora for the first time in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And my hope is to back it up, make it strong. Diaspora bring about $4 billion a year for our gross product. But that is just a scratch.
Alfie, hello, sir. How are you? Very good.
In his visit to South Korea between 22nd to 24th November, the first visit by a Kenyan president in 32 years, President Ruto met the president of Korea, Yoon Suk Yeol, and secured 120 billion shilling funding from South Korea to help set up a smart city at the Konza Techno City. The two countries agreed to boost job exchanges, support innovation, and a creative economy.
We want to set up a mechanism that is approved and understood by the government of Korea so that we can have opportunities for Kenya to work here legally, in a structured manner, because that is the relationship we want to have with the government and people of Korea.
President William Ruto's 2 visits to the United States for the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly and the United States Africa Leadership Summit, as well as his visit to the UK, have been interpreted by foreign policy experts as the game plan to establish new partnerships with the West.
Definitely, America is interested in what is happening in Kenya. And we know America has had a beating in her relationship with Kenya in the previous government, both the Uhuru government and the Kibaki government, largely because of conflict of interests. So as it is, I do not think it is more of a change of policy on the side of William Ruto, but it is playing smart. Playing smart in the sense that it does not necessarily have to make enemies with the U.S. And if the U.S. has something to offer, there's every reason to listen to them.
The West have always treated Africa as a stepchild, not realistically dealing with us as a country and also as people. Biden administration is changing that. He did not just call these people to the White House for a photo op. He's dealing with substantial agenda, which will then change the relationship, bilateral and multilateral relationship between Africa and the United States.
President Ruto's campaign promises steered clear from indicating any deviation from the current foreign policy. But experts indicate that the promise of the bottom-up economic model could guide his foreign policy agenda going forward.
I don't see how we can run away from the East if you are talking about China, for example, who has been a major partner of Kenya, because as we speak today, Kenya has a debt position of 8.4 trillion, and 1/3 of that debt is from China. So how will we move away from China? We still have to service those debts, and we still have to service the relationship. So I think what President Ruto has done is basically trying to ensure that he gets the best from either side.
On the continent, President Ruto's administration has prioritized economic diplomacy as Kenya leads the push for Africa to embrace free trade. Foreign policy experts argue that the president is mastering the diplomacy chess game quickly.
The president wants focus on the ordinary person on the street and their struggles and issues and concern, and empower them to be able to take care of themselves, their family.
The visa scrapping for Kenyans visiting South Africa for 3 months or less has been seen as a win for Kenyans. Ruto's visit to Tanzania in October resulted in a commitment to speed up the construction of a proposed gas pipeline from Tanzania to cut the price of cooking gas. President William Ruto's visits to Uganda and Ethiopia were dominated by trade and political cooperation talks. Melita Oletenges, NTV.